So, welcome into the podcast, the Chaos Cast. We're glad to have you here. So, the last podcast episode we did, we were talking about the inevitable collapse of Hollywood because of AI, streaming, the fact that you have independent movie studios that are coming out with better content than really multi-billion-dollar industry leads like Disney that are tanking right now because of transgender cartoons, their support of things kids don't even be watching. Then they're going and changing up things with the Marvel, the whole Marvel storyline to basically support a woke agenda. So right now we're watching the Indiana Jones Dial of Destiny tank because basically they did Kathleen Kennedy done the exact same thing she did with Star Wars. She disrespected the people who built that franchise, and so she's doing it again now. She did it to the guy who played Mark Hamill, the guy who played Luke Skywalker. Now she's basically done this to Harrison Ford, the guy who has played Indiana Jones all these years. And I think it's Phoebe Waller-Bridge is her pick to replace him, kind of like Ray was to replace Luke as the chosen one. So you have this in Hollywood. You also have Hollywood at this time. They are on strike. You're seeing the Screen Actors Guild go on strike. You're seeing the writers go on strike. You're seeing them. They see the writing on the wall. Now, these are the same people that were cheering on. They were cheering on the replacement of the average, everyday, middle class factory worker by technology. The automation is going to put you out of a job. Is what they were screaming just a year or two ago. Okay, and it has to some degree, but they didn't realize how quickly AI would put them out of business. So they're fighting. They're the Screen Actors Guild and SAG and all these groups are fighting to get rights that their jobs can't be replaced with AI because Chat GPT just basically waylaid the most the most highly educated, the best lawyers in America. They gave a series of problems to some of the best lawyers in America, and it took them like a day or so, which was good, for lawyers. When coming up with finding out what was wrong with the case that was put before them, the legal issues, ChatGPT did it in like a matter of seconds. I don't even think it took a full minute for ChatGPT 4, the new version of ChatGPT, to basically um, upstage the best legal advisors in the country. And the same thing's happening when Elon Musk tweets out a picture of what looks like normal human beings, but they don't exist. He says AI created them. And you see all this happening. So in the midst of all this, while we're watching, the woke ideology tank, we're watching we're watching the Bud Light fiasco with Dylan Mulvaney. We're watching the Target fiasco right now with the tuckable child onesies, for your transitioning children. While we're looking at actual states becoming transgender child sex change sanctuaries, I believe is how they word it, where this state's going to allow you to travel there and have your your any age of child that identifies as a different gender than it was biologically born, that you can get that child changed. You can have that child's sex changed in these states that they're pushing this forward. I believe we've just seen the U.S. outlaw, make it a crime to misgender somebody. So you better be real careful about them genders. And uh, I'm just going to say, hey, yeah, hey, there's no more yes sir, no ma'am. I mean, I'm not going to jail. So, but like, hey, how you doing? What you doing, Tater? That's what I tell my kids. Hey, what you doing, Tater? Dog over there. Hey, Tater. Hey, Tater ain't got no gender either. It's just, do you want it French fried or do you want it baked? I'm just gonna tell you. But yeah, we see in all this woke ideology collapse in our media. People are not going to the movie theaters. It started prior to the coronavirus outbreak. Um, yeah, I lost you at the woke nonsense. A line says, I don't care, a line. If you're woke, go be woke. Go be woke somewhere else. We're awake here. But anyways, getting back to the subject matter, we're seeing things collapse in the industry. We're seeing the movie theaters. People are not going to movie theaters anymore. People are, they're watching it. In some cases, you have same day streaming, or you have, same day access where you can. I'd much rather be at my house in a lot of cases. Some things are great to watch on a big screen, but when you get out of the habit of going and carrying, I mean, it don't matter. I got a pretty good size, like 60 something inch screen TV I bought from the pawn shop over here. So I can watch it, and I got a big sound bar, so it's loud. I got my couch, it reclines, and I got an armrest, and I got some sweet tea that I didn't have to pay $5 for, and then $1.50 for the refill. So that's great. But we're seeing COVID kind of just tanked that whole industry. It put them out of business for a little while. People weren't acting, people weren't doing anything. So we had all this happening in the midst of. They're trying to go woke, and they're losing. They're losing money. People are, we've seen what happened with the movie Solo. You had this huge fan. Um, this huge fan boycott. Now you're seeing it again. It's gotten so bad that during Pride Month, Starbucks, a highly woke ideology based company, called and told them to take down all of the Pride merchandise. That they called and it got to the point where the workers unions were fighting the executive leadership at Starbucks, because they've so heavily invested in this for years. So whatever you want to be, I don't care. But my big issue is pushing on the kids this whole drag queen story time garbage. Kids don't need to be sexualized. Kids don't even need to be thinking about sex at all. They need to be playing. If they play with a Barbie doll and they were born a boy, I don't care. I'm not making a big. My boy had a little baby doll one day playing with it, and when it's always seems the more you say something to them, the more they're going to play with it. I just let him sit there, play. It don't mean he's a girl. I'm not going to go get him transitioned and make him start wearing dresses. That's just insane. It's children, and we got this big issue lately with governing bodies wanting to sexualize children. The media, which is supposed to be the fifth estate, the fourth estate. I mean, it's supposed to kind of keep the government in check. The media is turning woke. The media is maybe I said that wrong. It may be but it's supposed to be kind of like another branch of government that keeps the actual elected officials in check. But you see them sexualizing children, and then while in the midst of all of this, their movies are taking. I mean, people are not even going to the Disney theme parks anymore. I mean, there was an article I read recently about how people are just not showing up. And so, in the midst of all that happening, this little rinky-dink studio, Angel Studios, a couple of what most people would think are some of the most underrated um, actors. Jim Caviezel was called the most underrated actor in Hollywood. They come out with this movie called Sound of Freedom about Tim Ballard and his fight against human trafficking and pedophilia in America. And yeah, it's a great movie. Some people are saying that they just don't know if they can watch it because it is heart wrenching. It is heartbreaking to see what these children have done to them. I mean, I got kids, and to think about my nieces, my nephews, and my children. What if well, they're going to have a hard time getting Braden. He's bigger than I am. I don't even think I could pick him up now. He probably could whoop me if he wanted to. So, but yeah, I mean, it's like you think, what if that happened to my kids? So I'm going to play you this trailer of The Sound of Freedom. This is the official trailer.
Giving a child his freedom Oh, good. You have been at this for 12 years. My country days of the year. Why are you doing it? Because God's children are not for sale.
Hey, Dustin, good to see you, man.
It is the fastest growing international crime network that the world has ever seen.
For Homeland Security, we can't go off rescuing Honduran kids in Colombia.
This job tears you to pieces. This is my one chance to put those pieces back together.
Yes, Sam, you have failed to bring me one real-world lead.
Silverton.
You'll be able to watch this. Hopefully I've been having issues with Riverside, but hopefully you'll be able to watch this on the podcast when I do release it. Probably be around Monday, towards the evening. You'll hopefully be able to see the trailers and the news articles that and different TikTok clips and whatnot.
And if this is your daughter, so
it'll show this trailer that's been released. It's well worth going and watching. I'm just going to tell you, it's well worth going and watching.
That's the sound of freedom. Sound of Freedom is one of those films that can lead you.
All right, that's aware that we're going to be done with that one. Let's see. I'll take that one off. All right. So there was a comment that's been brought in here by T. Sydney. It says it is becoming an issue also at child visits providers asking whether they identify as, and talking about what they're asking these children, who they identify as. And yes, we've heard a lot of, there was a TikTok video posted recently of a man where his wife had took the kids to a doctor's visit. And so the doctor begins to come into their son and ask, what gender he identifies as. And the kid's kind of like, what is he talking about? Looking to the mom. The mom's kind of starting to get like a little antsy, like what's happening here. And the doctor begins to explain to these children without even conferring to these parents, you can decide, if you feel like you're a girl, you may feel like you're a girl, you may feel like you're a boy, even though you're biologically born as a boy or girl, you may feel opposite. You may feel like some complete, gender, asexual, I've always heard that thrown out like SpongeBob. And so the mom gets the kid and leaves the doctor's office. We're seeing the sexualization of children. Now, the UN, we're having this big push in a lot of their documentation for the decriminalization of how they put it, sex with minors. We've seen them try to add the pedophiles in with the LGBTQ community by calling them minor attracted peoples. I'm not going with the MAPS theory. That's not another sexuality. You wanting to molest children and rape children. I'm up late, Space Cowboy. Just had a chance, and this was just a subject I wanted to address. Now, as the movie was coming out, I don't think anybody really was worried about it. But then it became number one at the box office. Then Dial of Destiny come out. I think Barbie may have come out, but I'm not quite sure which Barbie. They came out and said that movie ain't woke. The actresses were saying it was woke on some kind of public appearance or a podcast or whatnot, and they were real quick to come out and say this ain't woke. It's idealistic or something, but they did not want that woke label. Nobody wants that woke label after what has happened to Target and Bud Light. I'm just going to tell you. But I mean, I can stand to do without some Clydesdale. I don't drink anyway, so I can stand without seeing them Clydesdales on on television during a commercial anymore. But anyways, that when it started, you know, when it started really gaining steam, that's when we seen CNN come out. And here's the wild thing, you know, the Rothschilds have a whole lot going on. Peepholes aren't part of the LGBTs community. I think I'd know. Okay, there you go, buddy. But the Rothschilds, so you have Mike Rothschild being interviewed by a CNN anchor, and they're encouraging Americans not to watch the Sound of Freedom movie. So we're going to play. They associate it with a certain Anon, and we all know who that notorious Anon is. That you love it or hate it, it's just entertaining. Listen to them, folks. But this is a Rothschild. You know, of all people you're going to bring to try and discredit a movie that's an anti-pedophile movie, you know, an anti-sex trafficking movie. You're going to bring the Rothschilds into it? I mean, literally, you just discredited your whole interview. Thank you, Kate. I don't know what this is.
You seem pretty familiar with him because he doesn't really hide his association with this real wild plot that involves, you know, drinking the blood of children and things like that.
No, he doesn't hide it at all. And you have a lot of people who are in this world of QAnon who say, oh, they don't know what that is. They've never heard of it. They're just asking questions. With somebody like Jim Caviezel, he is openly embracing it. He's openly using its catchphrases and its concepts, speaking at QAnon conventions.
All because of a movie that's anti-pedophile.
Specific QAnon believers or to people who believe all of the same.
And this is QAnon. Remember, this is the trusted Rothschild name.
And the Sound of
Mike Rothschild's here.
Real issue.
Can you listen to old Jim Caviezel tell you, you know, we got to fight the pedophiles and sex trafficking because he's QAnon. So that's enough of that garbage. But that's not all. That's not all. So there's some surprising things we're going to look at. But so there's this huge issue with AMC being the AMC movie theaters and I think even Regal. Where people are going into theaters, the AC's not on. It'll say it's all sold out. There might be 8 people there. You're seeing evacuations. No one knows why they're evacuating the theater. The mall that the theater's in still open. We're going to play you a couple clips from TikTok because this has been where, you know, of all places, this is where the anti-suppression seems to be, where we can't have our guns, we can't have our knives, we can't, you know, talk about certain things, but they seem to really love it when we want to post stuff that the government over here don't want us to know about. So, hey, I do like that. Sometimes your enemy's your friend. But anyways, yeah, and the enemy being the corrupt bureaucracies of America. Our country, 'tis of thee. Dad, blame it.
Has to say about the Sound of Freedom movie.
So we're going to, this is her TikTok tag is Blave 1112. That's her tag.
Just walked out. Hi. And we are curious what your experiences were in the movie theater because we pre-ordered our tickets, paid for them. They were claimed, got the link sent. This is an AMC theater in Pineville, North Carolina. Some point today, the tickets got refunded to my friend and we couldn't figure out why. So we come anyways to the theater after dinner.
Couldn't understand why.
They're like, oh, well, we refunded all the tickets because there's no air conditioning in our theaters.
Refunded them all.
Okay, whatever. We don't care.
Everybody's air conditioners are tearing up.
Yeah,
and just the Sound of Freedom studio
so
or the Sound of Freedom theater.
Did they not
Indiana Jones still
send out
pretty cool in there?
an email saying, hey, we refunded your tickets?
You would think if people wouldn't spend good money on this movie, you would just like, and nobody's really caring about Indiana Jones or Barbie or whatever's out. And then let's go play Sound of Freedom. Let's go play Sound of Freedom in there. You got thousands of people. They're pre-buying tickets for people. There was a guy that got kicked out of the movie theater because he bought out a whole show of Sound of Freedom.
The bathrooms, not the theaters. They don't have the bartender or anything in the theater. I smell something stinky.
So that was one of the clips. We're going to let you listen to another one. All right, here we go. This is another one. Examples of AMC and Regal sabotaging the sound of freedom. And this is a guy. He's it's not a commentator. This is his actual
And I
tag.
went to go see the Sound of
James
Freedom in
Skillet
theaters
is
on
his
4th of
TikTok.
July. And we've been to this
tag.
theater many times. It's always been a pretty experience. This particular time was really uncomfortable to sit through. There was no AC running. It was unbearably hot. So I go out and I ask if they can turn the AC on, and they told me that it wasn't working. Okay. I bought these tickets online. It showed that the theater was pretty much sold out. There was only a few seats available. When we get there, it's just me and my girlfriend and maybe 8 other people in the whole theater. I didn't think anything of this until I got on TikTok a few days later, and comes to find out that hundreds of other people are experiencing the same thing. So AMC and Regal, the people who own it, are not running AC, and they're making it hard to get tickets. And that should make you want to go see this movie even more.
So I saw Sound of Freedom. I waited a couple of days to post this video just to kind of see what the reaction would be after 48 hours of how it was. Now, a couple theories that people are throwing out there that there was no AC in their theater. I went to a AMC out here in St. Lucie, West Florida, and just our theater alone, that theater room, had no AC. The rest of the theater had AC, so I just
The rest of the theater.
contribute to that. That yeah, there was another one that of those theories was happening out here.
All right, so I'm going to stop this right here and address this. Okay. So they don't make anything on the movies, but they have to pay for those movies. Okay. They make mainly off the concessions. But yet, why wouldn't you want to show this movie? Okay. So that comes into why do these people do contrary things all the time? I mean, look at Bud Light. They're losing a lot of money. It took them basically just tanking before they started trying to change their ways, before other companies started panicking, because there are people that are funding these things. So likely they bought this. And so you get some big name studio that says, well, we can't let this outdo this. Well, we've seen it during Captain Marvel, empty theaters, and they somehow were sold out, and it was the best movie America ever put out. Yeah, these companies, they can't let this company win. They can't let people see this movie, because then they're like, hey, you had to settle for whatever we gave you before. You had to settle for this garbage we've been putting in front of you for years. But hey, wait, no, we can't let Angel Studios succeed, because if they do, we'll see more of this popping up. If a movie that nobody expected, one thing, they didn't expect anything, so this is kind of like that last minute things they could do. We're going to make it uncomfortable. We're going to pay these people off. We're going to pay studio managers off, because you do have the guy that runs the AMC franchise saying, look what happened to the documentary. Okay, here we go. But you do have the AMC guy, guy that runs that franchise, a CEO, coming out supposedly slapping down conspiracy theories. But you're not seeing it all around the world. And we didn't have any issues when we went to watch it. But you have a number of people coming out and saying specific things. Now, some of those are probably fake, but there's a certain percentage of those that are dealing with real world issues. And so it wouldn't be surprising to me if some of these theater owners are not getting paid off. Some guy that runs 10 theaters isn't getting called up. Hey, we're going to give you this if you'll shut the AC off. We don't want nobody to, or they're just say, if you keep people from watching this movie, we'll pay you. And they're the ones that decided to shut the AC off. And the CEO has no money trail because it was, cash, crypto, or something of that nature. Yeah, I mean, it's not a unheard of thing. People launder money all the time through crypto. So, I mean, it's easy to do these types of things. So we're going to play you a few more of these.
I'm getting on here because went to see Sound of Freedom and didn't have the air on, and it was hot. So I went out, talked to the manager, and he kind of acted like he wasn't going to do it. and I was getting side glances from all the workers in there at the concession stand. So I kind of made a big scene, and they did turn the air on.
So I keep seeing all these videos about people that went to see the Sound of
Sunny
Freedom,
17Q.
and either something happened in the theater or the air conditioner was not turned on. Well, I went by myself. My boyfriend didn't go, but I went to a little bit further away theater because their seats recline and it's so comfortable. And brought my sweatshirt because I'm always cold, like always. And got in there, sat down, and I was like, it's really hot in here. Through the movie, and literally I have hot flashes and I'm going through menopause. It's miserable. I did not move from my seat, even though I was dripping with.
Yeah, so we're going to go to one more, and then we're going to discuss a weird thing that's happening with the truther community. The people like to say are that cult, and we had somebody in the comments here on TikTok saying something about a cult earlier. I mean, literally, the ones you refer to as the cult are coming out against this too, and it's kind of a double whammy. The people that should want this movie to be on in theaters are fighting it as well. And we're going to look at who's kind of. I'm not sure if that's this is who started, but she's one of the progenitors of this.
So my fiance and I just watched the movie Sound of Freedom that exposes sex traffickers. And do you want to tell them what happened in the movie theater?
All right, AMC, I don't know what's going on here, but first off, the AC was out, like, when we went to watch the movie, and I'd seen someone else post something, too, that also saw it at AMC, and their AC was out, and, like, as soon as we walked into the theater, it was hot as heck.
I literally brought a sweatshirt, and I was, like, sweating.
And then we realized, like, it took us a while to actually realize it, but they did turn the lights off.
They literally had the lights on.
They kept the lights on the entire movie.
Who does that?
Like,
they don't want you to see this movie.
they were trying to make it, like, not enjoyable.
No.
Like, they were trying to make it unenjoyable.
What do they think? We're just going to be like, oh, the lights are on. We're going to leave. Like, no. Go watch Sound of Freedom in theaters now.
They turned all the lights on during Sound of Freedom.
This is Sarah Holmrich. That's her TikTok tag. See a lot on TikTok.
People still watch the movie.
Jackie PNMN. That's his TikTok tag. The fire alarm goes off and people still watch the movie. Laney Rocks. In the middle of Sound of Freedom, the fire alarm went off. The staff was very helpful and rewound the movie for everyone and gave vouchers for a free movie. So they tried to make it right.
So I've been seeing all over TikTok that people are going to watch the movie The Sound of Freedom, and these weird things are happening, like random emergency evacuations, the air conditioning not working and having to leave the theater. And I thought, no, that's probably just something that's happening in other theaters and other places. So I took me and my daughters to go watch The Sound of Freedom today, and about an hour and 20 minutes into the movie, we get a random emergency evacuation. None of the staff knows what's going on. The mall wasn't being evacuated, just the theater.
You can see Patriot
All
Rifleman.
they did was refund us our money with no explanation. But I guess you can call me a conspiracy theorist.
It's turned into old bats.
This is what happens when Red and I decide to go to the movies. Pretty big movies.
Pretty wild, ain't it? You just keep seeing all these evacuations. You keep seeing all these things happen to keep this movie out of the mainstream. But the more they try to stop it, the more it happens, the more it gets out. So, yeah. I mean, this is probably one of the most hyped independent movies of our generation.
Sound of Freedom. And this happened. No one left until they played the movie. They tried to give us free tickets if we left.
Obviously, this one's of a screen and the digital camera. The digital screen is showing pixelating.
You guys, I just experienced a conspiracy theory, like in person for the first time ever. So I just went to go see a noon showing
More and more.
Sound of Freedom, which is the human trafficking movie by Jim Caviezel.
Suppression does spur curiosity, Space Cowboy.
Indiana Jones. but like for studios and everything are trying to
Oh my
push this
gosh.
movie and make it seem like not so many people are going to see it, and they're not promoting it at all, and they're basically trying to make it seem.
And so, you kind of get the gist of what's happening here. And so we have Food Coma 85. I don't know how someone can be self-reliant and in a cult of personality at the same time. Okay. I mean, it's hard, but I figured out, I just got that way about me. I'm in a cult of personality. I mean, is that even really a thing? I mean, like literally explain that to us, Food Coma 85. We're seeing live footage of this. I mean, maybe it's AI driven. Maybe somebody made it with an AI. Maybe some average Joe that supports the Sound of Freedom. It has a well advanced AI that's making, very good footage of these people having the same result time and time again. At least the lib cult gets welfare. Just saying, yeah, man, that's the one thing about our cult of personality, Space Cowboy. We don't got no daggum free money getting handed out. They ain't getting me no food stamps. I have to go work. I have to work at the mine. I have to go grab a haul truck to earn my money. Barb's losing connection. They don't want us talking about this, But y'all just go follow me at wherever you listen to your podcast. Follow the Chaos Cast and share that podcast out. We're going to do a video podcast, and we're going to have the regular audio podcast so you can download it. Because Anchor won't share out the video podcast to anywhere but Spotify. So Spotify is the best place to follow me. But if you have a different platform, I usually have the audio coming up, and I'll have links to different, places, and you'll be able to see what's on my screen. Hopefully, this is still a new thing I'm trying to get my computer to do, because sometimes I got to get it in a headlock and make it do what I want to do, because it don't do what it's supposed to do. I'm starting thinking AI has infiltrated my daggum computer, because it just does stuff it wants to do sometimes and then don't do what it don't want to do. I don't know what to tell you. So this is the last TikTok video we are going to show you. This comes from Yum's Natural Emporium, and this is a truther. She's part of the truther community. Now, you want to talk about, the cult that, what's his face? Food Coma is talking about. Well, that's what a lot of people refer to as a cult, is the truther community. A lot of them are just people that just don't believe what they're being told anymore. We've seen scientists, we've seen governments, we've seen plenty of politicians, plenty of corporations lie, just flat out lie and ruin lives and stomp heads in the ground and get away with it. So yeah, they just don't believe anything, and they're really heavily invested in exposing the corrupt pedophilia and what they see as an elitist group that runs pedophilia, And so you had this lady coming out. She's discerning this, and she's seen these sites before. This looks a lot like a site to me, because not only is she saying this stuff, you have a number of people coming on saying the same thing from that community. And supposedly they've been infiltrated, so, co-opted by the groups that want to control what you see and hear. Now, if you want to go back to listen to our last podcast, you can listen to my friend Kevin. We had him come in. He's from Australia. He is international hacker, computer specialist, and we talked to him, and he explained to us how we're very limited here in America in what we see. And he pulled up the government databases and started, he's like, I got the plans to bomb right here. They don't care if we know. So that's, you have certain agencies and groups and bureaucrats in our government that want to control what you see. They feel like that we need to be governed, and our thoughts need to be governed. They tried to set up the thought police not long ago, and Congress shut that down. But yeah, we're going to play Yum's Natural Emporium. I believe that she's the psyop, because the group that has been trying to make this mainstreamly, like known in the mainstream, trying to get people to fight for this. You finally have a movie, and then you flip around and you say some just existential, ignorant garbage about how it's soft. That putting a movie on ain't gonna do nothing. They need to start. I mean, the dude literally saved. How many of y'all have saved 54 kids? Actually 55. How many of y'all has saved 55 kids from sex trafficking? Now, maybe you helped some woman that was in a battered women's shelter and her husband was sexually abusing the kids. Maybe you helped some kids that were in foster care or something. But that's great. But you didn't save 55 kids. Now, if you did, hats off to you. And you probably are glad to see this up here. So, but yeah, we're going to watch what this woman says. Because then there's another woman that has something to say about this herself.
Every time they put making a movie about child trafficking is not going to raise awareness and has nothing to do with that.
Well, trying to put that movie down to raise awareness either.
They make revelation of the method films like this as a ritual.
It's a ritual.
As a way of pulling in your energy,
they're pulling your energy in,
and making you outraged.
They're trying to get you outraged.
Of anyone who's ever.
Why wouldn't you be outraged?
Before.
They're kids.
Politicians and Hollywood actors have a blood oath.
They got a blood oath.
A soul-binding contract that you don't just get out of. Do you know how many of Maxwell's and Epstein's clients are laughing their asses off at us right now? You just paid them millions of dollars to continue child trafficking. Remember Balenciaga?
Angel
Yeah,
Studios.
they're still going strong. Sitting in a movie theater, eating popcorn, being rich.
Angel Studios is the group that brought you, as they were part of bringing you the Chosen series about Jesus. Probably one of the better depictions of Christ on screen that I've seen, and a lot of people have watched this show. I bought it and watched it. It's great. Okay. They have put that for free out on YouTube. It's not costly if you buy it, but they even got the Chosen app, where you can go or the Angel Studios app. And so they're expanding. And then you have what's another movie called The Homestead. So they're expanding, they're expanding alternative media. They're giving you something besides the mainstream just controlling everything you see. You know, the counterculture is in war for existence right now. It actually seems to be winning, and this was a big win. And then you have this lady coming in, it's pulling your energy. This is a ritual solve. If that stuff's even true, okay, whatever. It doesn't seem like they're pulling much energy. People are getting outraged because they need to be outraged. We have more people in subjugation than ever in history put together. There are more people in slavery than there have ever been, I believe, altogether in history, and most of them are women and children. Do you understand that? Yeah, you should be outraged. And this lady has the audacity to come on here. She is like any other person trying to get attention. She's got to say that outrageous thing, and then there's that other loon that's going to hop in there on the train with her, and is going to make I feel discernment. So the woman that's talking about feeling discernment from the Lord don't realize this lady probably is not. She doesn't have the same faith as her. She's not going off discernment. She's just going off energy, I guess. I don't know. Some crystals she looked into, and then the crystal, I feel discernment because I identify with this woman and she looks like my next door neighbor. Yeah, I mean, that's what this movie's getting it from both sides. Do you understand that? It's getting it from the mainstream. Now it's getting it from the counterculture. And it's a true story of a man that gave up his job, put it all on the line to save these kids. And they even tell you at the end of the movie that it's not about Tim Ballard. It's not about the people that worked with him. It's about the children, the brother and sister that worked together that really basically inspired the whole, they set the whole thing into motion. When that little boy was found, and that whole situation with the Timoteo, it was one of the Catholic. I'm not a Catholic. I'm Pentecostal, so I don't even know. But it was the little the little coin with the Saint Timoteo on it, and the little boy inspired him with his love for his sister to go find the sister, and that was like, that's what the whole movie was. These two kids loved each other. The little girl loved her brother, gave that, that piece of jewelry to him as to remember about and to have faith that God would save him. And that was what happened. In the end, they saved these kids. And this movie, this happened well before QAnon was ever a thing. This movie, they were trying to make this movie well before that became even any kind of mainstream thing, before the elections, before anything. And prior to this, the media didn't have anything bad to say about it. I mean, you can look up the NBC, news stories about this guy and how he has risked his life. I mean, when you watch the movie, the guy literally went into a place the military of that country wouldn't go, the law enforcement of that country wouldn't go, just to try and help this kid, this little girl that had been sold into slavery. And some of it, again, probably dramatized, but it's based on true events. And that's what we're seeing. I mean, it's so insane. When I started seeing this come about, and then I actually had friends messaging me and DMing me about this. And it's always those friends that are like, follow the money. I mean, look at this. Have you actually followed the money? Or are you just spouting off what you heard from somebody else? You show me the paperwork, okay? And then let's analyze it together and really look at it. Because, yeah, maybe there's a lot of business dealings that interact with one another. And businessmen, some of them, they interact with people that are corrupt. Why? How do I know that? Because I know some of the businessmen. I'm kin to some of the businessmen around here. And some of them are good. And then they have to do business with this other one over here because it's the only way to get it done in this town. And that's kind of how things work. Some of these guys work. So you're going to find some money that's a little off. But I don't think George Soros I don't think he's funding the Sound of Freedom. I don't. I mean, there might be somebody that once had funding through their way that helped in some way. Maybe they inadvertently, they didn't even know that money was coming from him. But there's no bad in this except what these people are doing and trying to stop it from getting out.
Be traumatized is not going to end trafficking. Now, this idea is implanted into millions of people's subconscious minds.
They know.
This is how they push their agendas.
Yeah.
Remember?
They've been trying to push their agendas, folks. I want you to really think about it. What have people done? People haven't backed down. We see children more educated about their surroundings now. We see when the tuckable onesies came out, Target hit them in the back of the store, and I don't even think they got them in there anymore. Okay? When the parents started figuring these things out, why do you think Disney's tanking? Why do you think people are not going to Disney? Because they're trying to sexualize children. They're trying to put sexuality into a cartoon where a kid has no business fooling with it. All right, let's see what Sadie's dad said here. Man, done got blocked. All right, so I don't see what Sadie's dad is saying. George Soros is a great patriot. Oh gosh, we got the Pakistani troll farms in here, my friends. They always pay us a visit. We're so glad to see you. So glad you came in. But all in all, that was one of the most moving movies I've seen. Now we had, I believe Kate was mentioning that she was mentioning that she just didn't know she could go see it. And you may be one of those people that can't watch this and be right, knowing this has happened to these kids. From a young age, when I was in youth group, there were young ladies that shared their stories. And there was things of this nature involved. Not that they were being trafficked, but that adults were being allowed to do these things to them. And as I've gotten older, when I became a minister, and became a youth pastor, you have to go through the heartbreak of finding out what's happening to some of the kids in your youth group, and well, that person's dead now. Can't change that, but now we're dealing with the aftermath of what that person done. And it's not just young ladies. It's not just with girls. It happens to young men too, because I had some young men in the youth group that that was what happened to them, being sexually exploited by adults. And we're seeing more and more of it happen. It's one of the fastest growing, corrupt, like crime industries that's out there, because you can sell a drug once, you can sell a gun once, you can sell arms, like an arms dealer. You can sell a certain product once, but when it comes to those kids, what they're doing is they're selling those children 5 to 10 times a day for people to get their pleasure from. And they're doing this for 10 years with some of these kids. And it's not just kids. There's adults. There's young women being kidnapped. There's young men that are being exploited in different communities. There was one of those I Got You videos the other day where they went into with a hidden camera into a homosexual, bar, and it was a gay bar, and they were talking to certain men. I'm not saying that all homosexuals are like this, but they were saying these men were talking about, one of them said that he had brought in he got a 15-year-old boy in because he looked a little older than he was, and they all handed him off between one another. There were some of them, and they were caught on camera saying this. You can see them talking about it, where they were, one of them talked about it. He got raped as a kid, and he raped everybody, every boy he could, because he wanted to make them feel the pain he did. And so you have these things happening, and this goes back for years. There was a viral video here recently of you had I believe it was a college professor, and he was having a discussion with some students, and he was explaining, how the main progenitor of the queer theory talked about boy love and different things of that nature, and had documentation in writing of his pedophilic desires and ways. And then the person had the audacity to come out and say that they were just homophobic. Now you got to understand, I run with a lot of people online. I know a lot of different influencers online, and a lot of that comes from the Clapper app, where I started. Before I was doing podcasts, when I was just doing live streams there and posting survival content, before I got into disaster and preparedness news and podcasting, and along with that, and working with brands, doing gear reviews and whatnot, there was this guy, we called him Info Savage. And he was, probably one of the first LGBT on that app while I was starting out. One of the first member of the LGBTQ community on the app when it first started. And what he does now, he's blowing up everywhere, and you've probably seen his videos now. But this is a guy that I've worked with, and he's a good guy. He puts on a good front on there. This big flamboyant front for fights and whatnot, and dramatization to draw in a crowd, because he's really good at organizing events. He's really good at creating a good content, good watchable content. Okay. So this guy's a cool guy, we get along. He's actually, conservative, one of the few conservative homosexuals, but he begins to see what's happening. He runs with Conservative Ant. I don't know if any of y'all know him, but he begins to see what's happening with the sexualization of the children in the schools, and how school officials are trying to have these drag queen story times, and how they're trying to teach the children about, different forms of sex. And then you have this teachers that are talking about the maps, and they're saying, how can you fault someone for being attracted to the child? They didn't ask to attract to the child. And, most of y'all have seen that little viral video. Well, he sees these things, and he begins to start acting, and he goes in with these parents, and he begins to help fight these unions, and they're videoing this stuff. He's posting this stuff. He's advocating for this stuff, and it's just he has really made a difference because he does not want to be associated with that. You got to understand that he does not want his sexuality to be associated with the sexualization of children. Plain and simple. So he's fighting it, and he's doing a good job. I thank him all the time for going out and fighting that fight. Whereas, people might not listen to me because I'm not part of that, community, the Pride community, but he is, and he is against it. Where there's a large number of them that are, it's insane what we're seeing, the normalizations we're seeing. We're seeing where right is coming wrong and wrong is becoming right. We're seeing these last days that we read about, and we're seeing these children being manipulated, being used. I done a podcast, one of the first really kind of official podcast interviews I did. It was while I was still live streaming, and it was on the Clap Rap, and we had this woman, Savage Siggy Six, and she was an advocate against, child trafficking because she had been in child trafficking. They got her when she was, a young preteen, I believe. And then when she got older, she kind of got out of it. But then I think she got into a relationship where somebody was, abusing her as well as hiring her out. And she finally got out of all that and began to fight against and became an advocate. And she explained to me things like the skin trade. Where they'll go, where at the border you would have the different, these different groups that run these sex trafficking rings. They would trade white children for brown children. And then that's when I found out that America was pretty well predominantly one of the main customers for a majority of this child sex trafficking that we see depicted in The Sound of Freedom. Because that's how the movie starts out. You have, this pedophile that they are investigating, and he's distributing the child pornography online, and they catch him. And he eventually tricks this man into helping, into setting him, the initial setup where they finally start catching these traffickers. And that's where the young boy that, kind of helps him start finding these different leads. That's where they get this young man. They're bringing him into the country across the border, and to supposedly for him to interact with from what this pedophile he has convinced this pedophile of, and then he arrests this man. He arrests the guy at the border, and then that begins the arduous journey of trying to shut this ring down, trying to stop this. And so we have Space Cowboy and made this comment here on TikTok. It says, nowhere in the good book does it say we have to go down without a fight. No, it says turn the other cheek. And once you get that other cheek, get a good slap on that other cheek. It leaves no further instruction. A good friend of my family and an elder minister, Brother Bobo Ellis, he told me that he said a man challenged him to a fight one time, and he said, what are you going to do if I hit you, preacher? He said, well, I guess I'm going to turn the other cheek and you're going to hit me again. I'll let you hit me over there. He said, what are you going to do if I hit you then? He said, well, I guess I've turned the other cheek. And he said, what are you going to do if I hit you a third time, preacher? He said, well, brother, he said, the Lord left no further instruction after that, and you're going to be in a world of hurt. And they ended up fighting out in front of the church. I think he came when Brother Bobo was preaching one day. So, yeah, I mean, we ain't got to go out without a fight. If I find out there's a trafficking ring here in my neighborhood, I mean, I might be dead by the time I get done, but they're gonna pay for every bit of that sex trafficking they did. I mean, they're gonna pay. There'll be people that hear that story for generations, passing it on to their kids. This is why you don't get involved in crime. Some crazy redneck white kid's gonna come and disembowel you, and no, I would not say all that. But I mean, if I ever found it out, I'll help the police. We're gonna stop them. But yeah, I mean, it's just insane, and what we're seeing with this movie. But at the same time, God always takes the bad and uses it for good. You know what the devil meant for bad? Well, God used it for good. They have created such a media cloud around this, and such a media flux around this movie. It's almost reminiscent of what Trump did with Twitter during his initial run for office. And no matter what you believe about him, everybody, even the liberals, were saying he skull stomped the media. That no matter what they did, it was like he was 10 steps ahead. And a lot of that came down to that Cambridge Analytica, whatnot. But yeah, this is similar. I wonder if they weren't running some kind of, simulations and research to see what would happen. Heck, they may have started the psyop in the truther community, but people are wanting to see what this is about. They hear this, well, you don't need to be watching this. Well, they're going to go watch it. I mean, yeah. But yeah, my friends, go watch Sound of Freedom. Go and support that movie, because we need that movie studio making more content. We need that studio making more movies like that. And just keep that in mind. If you find, you need to start looking into supporting these organizations that are fighting this. There's more than one. I've even seen, I believe, where Ashton Kutcher is involved in trying to fight some of this. And that was another incident where you seen the truth community talking about. He was one of the ones supposedly that got executed at Gitmo for being involved in pedophilia, and the dude's sitting on YouTube crying, talking about how he can't find some kid. The FBI is having to come to him to find some kid because he's developing this software, to help, decrypt some of the software, I guess, certain software they're using to hide their identities while they sell this pornography and these kids online. And he's sitting there crying, talking about it. It's a fight. And I will say this, watch your children, because I'm hearing more and more about kids coming up missing everywhere. It seems like every other day, if not every day, I see an Amber Alert. Sometimes multiple days in a row, we see an Amber Alert. And, they're probably gaming the Amber Alert. You ever think about that? It's telling you the car and what they look like. Hey, they could swap out, have a car, down the road, and then they're so worried about finding this car. This person done swapped into a whole different make, brand, and color. And, he might have had a mask on or something. They couldn't get a good look at him. So, be mindful of your children. I always tell people, get a dog. Raise it from a puppy. Don't let nobody get around it until it's had a good 6 months to bond with your children. And if that dog does not get between your kid and strangers and put up a good, solid defensive posture, I'd say you need to get some training for that dog or find it another home and start over again. But I like dogs. You cannot buy a dog in a lot of cases if it's well bonded with a child. Somebody snatch up their kid. We've had a number of good dogs, been blessed with a number. We got a good one right now. About 3 good ones right now. If you food with my kids, you're going to have a German Shepherd, a Lab, and a Labradoodle Blue Heeler mix probably on you faster than you can blink. And I'm going to tell you, that's one of the things in the prep community we always discuss, having 2 dogs for security or more, because there's really no tactics that have been come up with by any fighting force to fully effectively combat 2 dogs, because they're just so unpredictable, and the loyalty is insane. And when you got a good 100-pound couple good 100-pound dogs, German Shepherd, Labs, or 100-something pound dog and a couple 50-pound dogs, they start tearing into you, So I say have some dogs with them kids, and have security cameras, and watch your children, and be mindful of who they're talking to online. Go check their Google search. Go get their phone up. There's been a couple of kids that I've checked the phones and didn't have to go past the dismissal page and figured out what they had got themselves into. And the kids got their phones took. So yeah, be mindful. Don't be stupid. And to those of you that think, well, putting a movie up ain't going to help, hey, there's a lot of people that have no clue. You would not believe the day-to-day people who have no clue what is happening around. I don't watch the news, man. News is just terrible. That's why they get away with it. But it's been good to have you here on the Chaos Cast. Y'all come back and see us again. We love y'all. Lord, touch everybody that came into this task. I pray you help everybody, Lord. I pray you help those that have made the Sound of Freedom to get this movie out there and help them to spread awareness and help people to get involved and start putting money behind this and stopping this industry, Lord. Help people to stop this industry, Lord. And I just pray this come back soon because it may be farther than we can even imagine. And I know you can deal with it better than we can, Lord Jesus. In Jesus' name we pray. They all said, amen. And we're going to be done.